Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Mark Steiner. It's great to have you all with us. Life and the economy in Gaza are in a shambles. In 2018, the World Bank warned the economy of the Gaza Strip had shrunk by 8%. They're facing a major crisis that also deepens the Palestinian-Israeli crisis. This has all occurred despite the reality that Israel dismantled and removed its settlements from Gaza, and the Palestinians in Gaza are now living through the longest pause between Israeli invasions. Though Israel's economic war and blockade and sanctions have continued with a devastating effect. While the Israeli invasions of 2008, 2012, 2014 killed thousands and destroyed property and infrastructure, the World Bank report shows that the economic damage inflicted on Gaza has intensified when the tanks have stopped rolling. Al Jazeera interviewed a school teacher in a marketplace in Gaza. This is what she has to tell us.
We cut down on meat and the expensive vegetables and fruit. We stopped any extra expenses as we need to adapt. We might be able to survive this month and the next one because we have some savings, but we won't be able to take it much longer.
And we're now joined by Dr. Omar Shaban, an economist who is director of PalThink, a think tank based in Gaza promoting rational thought, peace, prosperity, and freedom through decision-making. He has written extensively on the Palestinian economy and in general and on Gaza very specifically. And Dr. Omar Shaban, welcome. Good to have you with us here at The Real News.
Very good evening to you and to your audience. This is my pleasure.
So let's start here. I mean, the World Bank argues that the Gaza Strip, the Gaza economy depends on these transfers from the Palestinian Authority, from Qatar, international organizations. He claims the main reason for the current economic crisis in Gaza is about the decline in those money transfers. Now, so tell us a little bit about why Gaza now has to depend on this foreign money, the role it plays, and what's the real history here?
Thank you very much. Gaza is part of the Palestinian territory. 2007, there was the clashes between Hamas movement and the Palestinian Authority ended by Hamas taking over Gaza, and the Palestinian Authority, which is the legitimate Palestinian leadership recognized internationally, was defeated, confined its authority to the West Bank. This was on a Friday, 14th of June 2007. Israel immediately imposed closure in Gaza because Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005 but continued to control the air and the land and the sea. So according to the international law, Israel is still considered to be as occupying power to Gaza. And Israel imposed closure into Gaza restriction because they consider Hamas as a terrorist organization and Hamas does not recognize Israel. So Gaza was recognized by the Israeli government as a hostile entity. So Israel imposed huge restriction, movement to the people, movement of the products, of the, people get out or people come in. And there were three major wars between Israel and the Palestinian faction in Gaza, mainly Hamas, 2008, 2009, 2012, and 2014, which lasted for 51 days. I live in Gaza. I was all these three wars in Gaza. It was very, very, very miserable. I don't wish this to happen to anybody, even our enemies, because war is very bad for everybody. And the situation in Gaza became severely bad economically. Gaza is very small. Gaza Strip is 362 kilometers. It's 200 miles, square miles, inhabited by 2 million people. So it's one of the highest populated area on earth. And it grows by 5,000 newborn every month, 60,000 newborn every year. Gaza now will be, in 20 years, will be around 5 million people. There is no space. There is no space for the school. There is no jobs. 62% of the Gaza population are youth, are young people who are under 30 years old. 2/3 of this youth have never been outside. They live all their life in Gaza. And can you imagine this generation who have never been outside? They don't have the experience of interaction of anybody, even with the Israeli, because there is no Israeli in Gaza. They don't meet the American, they don't meet the European, so they have their stereotype about the world. And Gaza used to be a very good place to live. I want to remind our audience that Gaza used to receive a couple of thousand of Israelis, Jewish Israelis, coming to Gaza, staying 2 days in the Gaza beaches. Gaza in the Mediterranean has a lot of restaurants, 5-star hotel. It was like a Cyprus, it was like Greece. Many tourists were coming to Gaza, business people. If you ask an Israeli, elderly Israeli, they will say, oh, Gaza is a nice place to live. So Gaza is a
what you're describing, did this take place before the 67 war? Is that what you're saying, that in that period? Or post?
In the 80s and the early 90s.
Okay, yeah. I just want to be clear. Yeah.
And Gaza used to export a lot of products to Israel, to America, because our labor are very skilled. We used to have some 50,000 laborers go to Israel every day, learn the technology, and there was a lot of interaction between the Israeli businessmen and the Palestinian workers and businessmen. So there was peace without agreement. This is what I say all the time. The people were living, working together, despite the fact that they were enemies. But people were smart enough in Israel and in Gaza to work together and leaving politics aside. Now Gaza is very poor. 80% of the Gaza are very poor. Gaza become more radicals. Gaza export radicalism to Sinai. And youth are frustrated. And people become narrow-minded because they don't travel. They don't know what's going on. Although they are educated, the literacy rate in Gaza is just 1%. They go to the Facebook, they understand what's going on. They speak English, they speak different languages. Many of the Gaza student or fresh graduate from American university. So in Gaza, the youth, they know what happens in France or in Washington, and they compare it with their miserable life. So the gap is huge. So people become more radicals. And this is not good for, not only for us, but also for the Israelis, because we are far away from Israel by 10 kilometers only. Gaza is far away from Israel by 10 kilometers, which I say all the time to the Israeli people, to the Israeli public, look, we need to make peace. We need to have our rights. Let's talk about peace. Let's make prosperity together. What happened in Gaza is not good, neither for us, neither for you.
So let me ask you, so going back to the World Bank report for a moment, it indirectly blames the Palestinian Authority on the West Bank for the crisis in Gaza. I mean, Abbas and his folks have cut salaries to authority workers in Gaza, cut funding for energy, health services, all the rest. So talk a bit about why you think the Palestinian Authority is sanctioning people in Gaza. And do you agree that all this responsible for all this crisis really rests on their shoulders, which is where it seems to be being placed, as opposed to really understanding the breadth and depth of the sanctions and the blockades that have taken place on the part of the Israelis as well?
In very simple word, since 2007, Hamas control Gaza and the BA control in the West Bank. The relationship between West Bank and the Palestinian Authority in West Bank and Gaza continue in many shapes. For example, West Bank provide electricity. Israel pays for the electricity bill to Israel. We receive 120 mega from the Israeli company, which is paid by the BA. There are a couple of thousand employees who used to work in the public sector in the BA, and they are continue to receive salaries from Ramallah, from the Palestinian Authority. Hardship cases, the poor people, they receive some allowances every month. Medical referral from Gaza to Israel and to West Bank hospital, because we don't have good hospital for some chronic diseases like cancer and others. These bills, medical referral, are paid by the Palestinian Authority. So the relationship financially from the Palestinian Authority continue to support its people in Gaza. However, some people in our leadership thought that this benefit Hamas. So they have taken some measures to decrease the salaries, to decrease the medical referral to the West Bank. This started in March 2017, aiming to squeeze Hamas in Gaza and make it difficult for them, for Hamas. At the end of the day, people who suffer, we suffer, not Hamas. And we used to have 12 hours of electricity. Now we have 4 hours of electricity until a couple of months ago, until Qatar, some Gulf countries start to come. So there is a fight, there is competition between Hamas in Gaza and the West Bank, and people are paying the price in the middle. I cannot blame the BA only, of course, because still Israel controls the border. The 3 wars have left Gaza with a huge destruction. International community, especially the American NGO, who were working in Gaza, helping a lot of people. I used to work the head of an American NGO working in Gaza with the poor people. And for 8 years, we were helping the poor people in Gaza, making some project for children, for students, for universities. Some of the American NGOs stopped to work in Gaza, firing people. Recently, President Trump stopped the operation of USAID in the Palestinian territories. You cannot imagine this destructive impact of the suspension of the U.S. support to the Palestinian people. And this is not good only for Palestinians, but also is not good for the American, because if you continue to work in Palestine, this sends a good message to the Palestinians that the American people or the American leadership are in support for the Palestinian people. So if the American withdraw, this leave a vacuum, which will be filled by other radical group and other radical
So,
organizations.
so to that point, as we try to conclude, is that there have been protests in Gaza against Hamas itself. I mean, because of the declining standard of living, Hamas, says okay, don't worry about that because we can bomb Israel, and that makes them give us what we want and extracts things from Israel, and so that must be working, like the fishing zone being expanded, but really not by that much. So I'm curious what you, as an economist, as someone who is a political observer in Gaza and in the Palestinian world, as we talked about before, when the area your family came, was moved, had to flee in '48 from near Jerusalem to Gaza, and so this is your home. Maybe it's important to emphasize that. So tell me about what you've been writing and thinking about in terms of how you respond to the World Bank report, how you respond to the perception of the world, in terms of what can ameliorate this, what can change it, what can change the nature of the future.
Mark, this conflict has been there for 70 years, the Israeli and the Palestinian, and we have been into fight for several times in the West Bank and in Gaza. It is not going to continue like this, and the Americans invest a lot of money either to support Israel, to support the Palestinian. This area receive a lot of money, but still is not stable. We need to look differently. We need to end the conflict. Two-state solution is the solution that was proposed by the American, by all the presidents of America, and by the international community, by the UN. And even the Israeli leadership, Ishaq Rabin and Shimon Peres, recognize that Palestinians need a state. We need to go to that solution. My second point is that this area could be prosper. Palestinian and the Israeli can make a lot of money. I want to tell you something. Till now, under the problem in Gaza, there are so many IT companies working with Israeli companies, with Bill Gates, with Google, with Microsoft from Gaza, because this IT sector can overcome the closure. And there are so many companies in Israel, and Israel is growing, is doing a lot of good things in the IT, and they need the Palestinian graduate. And we have so many talented Palestinians. In Palestine we have 4 million, but we have 8 million Palestinians everywhere, in Chicago, in America, in Europe, and they have a lot of money. There is estimation that the Palestinian outside country in the diaspora, they own $200 to $300 million. And this Palestinian, they have family, Christian family in Beit Jahur, in Beit Salah, in Jerusalem, and they want to help them. So stability will encourage these people to come in. What I wanted to say that both the Israeli and the Palestinian, they were trapped by the conflict. I want them to open mind to the future. Let's make peace. Let's give us our rights. We need an airport. I want to travel like any others. Let's give the Palestinian the opportunity to work hardly. Unless the Palestinian and the Israeli make talk together, talking about peace. We need the peace. It's done. Everything have been experienced. We have experienced the war several times for many years. Why not to try the peace for one? As I said before, there was peace without agreement. Now we could have many agreements, but without peace, because people don't meet. The new generation Israel and the new generation in Gaza, they didn't meet in the past 15 years because there is a lot of walls. And the Israelis stopped to hear about us because they stopped to see us. And the Palestinian generation, who was born in the 80s and the 90s and they become adult in the 2000s and under the siege, they stopped to see the Israelis. The only image in their mind about Israel is the Israeli soldier, the Israeli settlers. They don't see the Israeli citizen. And the Israeli is the same. I am old enough to get out of Gaza. Whenever I go to a restaurant in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv and I meet some Israelis, they are shocked because they have a very bad image stereotype about the Palestinian. Until when we can go for this? We have to stop. What I want to say, there is a huge asset, a huge opportunity that are missed by both of us. Gaza has a lot of gas, like Israel. Just to close, there's a lot of gas from Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Palestine, Egypt, and Israel. So Gaza has a lot of gas discovery. Nobody can come and spend money, invest money until there is peace and certainty. There is no certainty. Who's going to invest $1 billion in Gaza or the Gaza offshore for the gas without stability. And there's a lot of many other things that can Gaza and the stability can bring to the Israeli and the Palestinian. And there were many studies shows that if there is peace, Israel will make extra $20 billion, and the Palestinian economy will be tripled. By then, we will not have money. We don't need then the American money. You can keep your money. We need then your love and your emotion. Last thing, Palestine is a holy place for everybody, for the Muslim, for the Christian. We are the most holy place in the world. Saudi is holy for the Muslim only. This is very important. But Palestine is holy for everybody. Jesus was born in Palestine. So the Jews, the Christian, and the Muslim can come to Palestine. Saudi is making around $20 billion from the pilgrim every year. Much more. Can you imagine if we receive 1 million Christian with 1 million Muslim, with some 200,000 Jewish to come to Palestine in peace, spend a few days in Jerusalem and then Bethlehem go around, how much money we can make? That's my theory, my friend.
Well, Dr. Omar Shaban, this is, I can see we could go on for hours together, and I would look forward to a much longer conversation. And thank you for your work and for your conversation today with us here. Stay safe, and we look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thank you very much, and say hello, and my greeting to all American people. Thank you.
We've been talking to Dr. Omar Shaban in Gaza, and I'm Mark Steiner here for the Real News Network. Thank you for joining us. Take care.